Since the British colonial era, when the mandatory death sentence for murder was first implemented, the death penalty has had a position in Malaysia's criminal justice system. Despite the British colonial government's 1952 introduction of the Dangerous Drugs Act of DDA to address the threat posed by drugs-related substances, the DDA did not carry the death penalty until 1975, when the government's anti-drug campaign got underway and the death penalty was instituted as a discretionary punishment for drug traffickers. In 1983, this penalty became obligatory, with the drug criminality being one of the administration's top security concerns. Prime Minister Mahathir escalated the usage of the death penalty, which is both in sentence and executions. Up until the early 1990s, drug prisoners who sought criminality were subject to a no-mercy police, making Malaysian drugs law some of the strictest in the world.
Good day everyone, my name is Mitra and I'll be presenting about the acts of law in Malaysia and the importance. Malaysian Parliament enacts federal legislation that applies throughout the country. State laws are also enacted by the state legislative assemblies and apply to the specific state. There are several Malaysian law and act for crimes such as Dangerous Drug Act 1980, Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission Act 2009, Custom Act 1967, Act 574 Penal Code 2015 and Act 593 Criminal Procedure Code. All these can be categorized according to their sections. For example, Section 117 of the Criminal Procedure Code sheds more light on this. It states that whenever a person is arrested and detained in custody and it appears that the investigation cannot be completed within 24 hours fixed by Section 28, and there are grounds for believing that the accusation or information is well-founded, the police officer making the investigation shall immediately transmit to a magistrate a copy of the facts of the case and also present the accused before the magistrate. The length for which a person can be remanded is depend on the offence that the person is being investigated for. The standard procedure of remand proceeding in Malaysia is quite straightforward. It is divided into two stages. The first stage of the application must be carried out within the first 24 hours of arresting a person. Here, the investigating officer must apply for remand within the first 24 hours or release the suspect. The second stage of the application is only necessary if the remand period initially applied for proves to be insufficient. In this case, the investigating officer must take a second application before expiration of the remand period of the first application. The first and the most powerful thing about law is that it sets the standard for acceptable and unacceptable behaviors. Second, it provides access to justice. For example, if it's against the law to punch someone in the face, someone who gets punched can do something about it other than simply swinging back. It is called the self-defense. In a perfect world, justice is equal. It doesn't matter who got punched or who did the punching. What matters is that the law against punching was broken. Everyone in a society, and not just a privileged few, must have equal access to justice through the law. The third is that laws keep everyone safe. Laws just don't only respond to injustice or harm, they also work to prevent them.
When discussing the death penalty, we cannot ignore the root cause of the crime, which has resulted in people from our own society being involved in crimes today. Why do some people decide to commit crimes? Let's discuss. Firstly, the usage of alcohol and drugs is one of the major factors that influence people from commit crimes. When someone consumes alcohol or drugs, it affects the function of the brain and weakens the decision-making process. Thus, it is easier for a person to commit crime without proper rational thought. Next, peer influence is well known to have a substantial impact on the life of all teenagers. Many young people become attracted to some negative activities like drinking alcohol and smoking by observing their classmates. When the peer pressure spread illegal activities like drugs, alcohol, and smoking, the issue becomes out of control. On the other hand, one of the key causes of crime is poverty. Crime rates are literally higher in economically deprived nations than in the other countries. People are wasting their time on illegal activities since they have some irrational thought that they can earn easy money to survive by committing crimes.
The result, crime gives negative impact to the individual, society and country. If someone has been the victim of a crime, it may impact their social life and relationships. If they have been the victim of violent crime such as an assault, they may have lost the confidence to go out and meet friends. Furthermore, people who have been convicted of committing a crime often to lose the support of friends and family. This is particularly the case in white-collar crimes where the criminals are shunned by friends, family and colleagues. Also, criminals who have been given prison and death penalty sentences lose contact with their families. Communities that suffer from high level of crime suffer from several social problems. These include poor health due to significant levels of drug and alcohol abuse. Also, poor education standard due to poor discipline and attendance. This is demonstrated in many of the poorer part of Malaysia. In addition, crime costs a great deal of money. The cost of the police, courts and prison is huge.
So the ways to prevent death penalty for innocents is number 1, to limit the use of death qualified juries. A critical issue in death penalty trials is the requirement that all jurors be death qualified or willing to consider imposing a death sentence. However, such juries are more likely to reach a guilty verdict than ordinary ones. A way to prevent this bias would be to convene 2 separate juries for potential death penalty cases. An ordinary jury will determine guilt or innocence. If that jury finds a person guilty, then a death qualified jury will determine the sentence. Secondly, we could use the drug trafficker as an informer. Rather than giving death penalty to a person who is found guilty, the government could use them as Malaysian government sleeper cells to find the network of drug trafficking and the methods on how distribution works, so that they could get hold of the main drug distributor and avoid the distribution of drugs among the community. Thirdly, we could reduce the punishment for the innocents. Avoid death sentence for the person who is found not guilty in distributing drugs. For example, a person who is threatened to distribute drugs or someone carrying drugs unintentionally, this should not be a case of death sentence, but maybe they could be punished by paying a fine and to be investigated further for a few months to prove them innocent. The types of crimes that is happening in Malaysia are murder cases, rape cases, robbery, causing injury, house break-in theft, vehicles theft, snatch theft and others. So the ways to overcome this is number 1, to implement strict policies on alcohol. There is a link between alcohol and murders. A study done in 2010 found that alcohol stores are strongly linked to gun assaults. Being in possession of a gun while drunk is therefore not allowed. Policies can be implemented to limit issues related to alcohol across the world. Some of these policies include high taxes on alcohol, minimizing the number of alcohol outlets. Number 2 is rape prevention. Reduce risk in social situations. Go to parties and social events with a group of friends and stay with the group. Do not leave your drink unattended. This leaves a potential rapist an opportunity to slip a drug in it. Take it with you to go to the ladies' room or anywhere else. Even for a short time, if you do leave it, just get a new drink. Do not accept drinks from a stranger or someone you just met. Thirdly is the public awareness campaign. Educating the public is one of the most important strategies for preventing crime. People who know what actions that they can take to reduce their risk of crime and how they can enhance neighborhood safety are the core of a safer community. By reminding people that a problem exists and showing them, it is important to have such campaigns to create some awareness among the community to help reduce the crime rate in our country.